Barakatha Yahweh, Barakatha Yahweh Shai, Barakatha Yahweh, Barakatha Yahweh Shai, Barakatha Yahweh, Barakatha Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rachak Wadash. Double honors to my apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who are the apostles and elders of Rasharallah. Peace and salutations to the Bayaf Dawadat, the house of David for elect. The name of this video is going to be called Everything is Leading to the R.F.I.D chip. Everything is leading to the R.F.I.D chip, which is the mark of the beast. This is Ezekiel chapter 3, verse 17. It says, Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. And who's the house of Israel? You so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, and also you Israelite foreigners that got scattered upon the four corners of the earth. Because this is a spiritual awakening. This is not only physical. All right. So it says, Son of man, I have made thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore, hear the word at my mouth and give them warning from me. And what are we supposed to warn you so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans about? Okay, the plans of the devil, which is Esau, Edom, so-called white nation, white race, the elites of them, and everything that's happening right now, all this propaganda and rumors of wars, and Israel and Iran and America with Israel and America and Russia and China and Taiwan, all these things that's going down, all these sleeper cells and everything that's going on as we speak right now, and things supposed to be happening the 4th of July and June 30th. Everything is leading to an R.F.I.D chip. They want total surveillance over the people. They want to chip every single person, not only in America, but in the planet. I'm going to play a video real quick, but I want to get some scriptures first. This is Revelation chapter 3, verse 10. This is the ultimate plan of the elites, the so-called Illuminati. All right? This is Revelation chapter 3, verse 10. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world. Which shall come upon all the world. This is they're all these heathens, starting with Esau, Edom, are coming together in these summits, trying to bring about their plan to chip every single person on the face of the planet. And that's what it's all about, man. Okay, because the elites are really ruling both sides of the wars. Now, ultimately, we know that Yahweh, first and foremost, name of our Heavenly Father is Yahweh. Yah means he, Hawa means is to be, exist. And his only begotten son, his name is Yahweh Shai. Yah means he, Hawa Shai means salvation, savior, deliverer. All right, and we know that ultimately our Father Yahweh is control of everything. But we know that these heathens, starting with Esau, Edom, want to chip every single person on the planet using AI, a digital system. All right, to track every single person on the planet. It says, because thou hast kept the word of my patience. What is it? What's the patience? To suffer this truth, to be persecuted by the whole world. I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which is when they bring about this digital system, through chaos, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell upon the earth. Okay, that's the plans of the elites. They want to digitize and track every single person, every single thing on the planet. This is Revelation chapter, I'm going to start with 14. This is Revelation chapter 13, verse 14. And deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles. And that goes back to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, when Esau, Edom dropped a bomb on the Ammonites, man, in Pearl Harbor. Okay? And that's when all the nations marveled. All right? And Esau, Edom had all nations fearing him. It says, which had power to do in the sight of the beast. And the beast is what? The Roman Empire, but that new Roman Empire coming back upon the earth. Esau, Edom ruling. Saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. And how was they wounded by a sword? Because they was in the caves, okay, for a certain period of time. All right. And that's where you have something called, because when Jake was ruling during the Holy Roman Empire, the Renaissance, these Edomites were actually in caves, man. So when they came back out, which was called the Renaissance, where they came and whitewashed all the images of Jakes, burnt them down, broke the images and statues. You see? And then what? That became, until now, the new Roman Empire. And that new Roman Empire is going to consist of a whole digital system where every single person is tracked. All right? That beast that was wounded by the sword and did live is talking about Esau, Edom, and the Roman Empire, bringing it back again. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. What's the image of that beast? It's going to be AI, the digital system, merging man with machine. That the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And that's what's going to happen when they implement this whole digital system, because you're not going to be part of the grid. If you don't take this R.F.I.D chip, you can't buy, you can't sell, you can't get a house, you can't go to work, you can't get into your car, you can't get into buildings. You won't be able to be in society. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, which is going to be this whole AI digital system that's already here. It's already, the infrastructure is already set. Like I'm gonna show you in this video. Also, there's a movie called Eagle Eye, and that shows you the surveillance that Esau Edom has, man. He had power, and Revelation chapter 13 verse 15, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And those that don't want to receive the R.F.I.D chip and want to live off the grid are going to be killed through their law. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. That's that R.F.I.D chip. And that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 636, and that's the barcode. Because these R.F.I.D chips have barcodes in them. Alright? The UPC code. So I'm going to play this video.
Think of each one of us. We're all under surveillance, not just by governments, but by corporations who are trying to do something. And it may not be anything nefarious. So 80 different companies are trying to sell you something, or 80 different companies are trying to get your data for some reason. And so they have AI and software bots that track you and follow you and learn from you and try and influence what you do, because they're trying to extract some kind of value from you. And literally, think of, being attacked by a swarm of bees. We're surrounded now by a swarm of AI software bots, all trying to learn from us, extract something from us, or get us to do something. Now, when you go to an all-digital system, then there's no escape. And then they can start literally to enforce rules. They do now. So
what are the manifestations of this that maybe we're not paying attention to or don't perceive for what they are?
So look at what they did to the Canadian truckers. We don't like what you're doing. We cut off your money. And we cut off your friends' money. And if people help you, we cut off their money too. I've known so many different people around the country who, we don't like what you're doing, we cut off your money. And we cut off your friends' money. And if people help you, we cut off their money too. So I've known so many different people around the country who've been debanked. We just got legislation passed in Tennessee that a bank over a certain size couldn't debank someone for political or religious reasons. And you're one of the things that's happening.
There's no such federal law.
Not that I know of, but I haven't looked. I've been working with the states, because ultimately the one power currently under the Constitution in the United States that can stop this, the powers not delegated to the federal government by the states are reserved to the states. In other words, the states are technically more powerful than the federal government. And under the Constitution, they have the power to override the federal government on many different issues, including healthcare. And so one of the tensions we see in America is more and more there is a debate between the feds and the states about who has what power. So we've seen a lot of the conservative AGs and treasurers pushing back in a wonderful way, in a marvelous way. The challenge they have is this, and this was said to me by a senator in Northern Ohio. Northern Ohio has one of the best groups of sort of freedom-fighting legislators in the country. And as you probably know, because you know Montana, it's very beautiful. And
You talking about Montana?
Idaho.
Idaho. Okay.
So, but it's right, it's right next to Montana. So one of the Idaho senators said to me, he said, my problem, every time I fight to implement the Constitution, he said, what I learn is every year we send $1 to Washington, and every year Washington sends back $1.19. And when I say I want to implement the Constitution, my constituents say to me, I'd rather have the 19 cents.
Yeah.
So what we've been watching literally since World War II is the federal government and a very, largesse, both monetary and fiscal policy, buying people out of the Constitution and buying the whole the federal government is right now operating so far outside the law. It's, you know how unbelievable it is. So that's the challenge before us. If we want to be free, we're going to have to decide we're not going to let ourselves be, it's like being sort of walked into the slaughterhouse. We're not going to walk into the slaughterhouse.
But you don't even, I guess what bothers me about it, there's something wonderfully straightforward, horrifying, but wonderfully straightforward about just a conventional invasion where people show up with guns and tell you what to do, because at least you know who the enemy is. But there's something very scary in.
Well, that's what it's ultimately going to be leading to when they force the R.F.I.D chip, which I read in Revelation, the 3rd chapter, the 10th verse. That's going to be that our temptation. Ultimately, it will lead to that, which is the New World Order motto is no mercy, or have no mercy. All right.
An insidious way about being lulled into slavery.
Right. And the thing to understand about the lulling is the marketing plan works one person at a time. In other words, I buy with money. Your friend I buy by knocking them off. For the other, your other friend I get a control file on. So there are thousands of different ways of nudging, buying carrots and sticks to get everybody into the control, into the trap. And what is so insidious about this is much of the marketing plan is invisible, and it really is crafted one by one.
The odds seem overwhelming against the average person in a system that you just described. So how far are we from not being able to exercise constitutional freedoms?
So I don't know how many years. They're clearly pushing to have this done by 2030. And, what I do have to say is...
And they don't have that much time. It's going to be before that. All right? They don't have that much time. It's going to be way before. They're going to push this now. This is why you're going to see small, chaos, if you want me to say it like that, small instances or small situations happening around America.
If you look at what it takes to stop it, I believe they're going to fail. Now, what I don't underestimate is how much damage they
and that's in the scriptures, going back into Job.
Could do, and the failure may not come in time to save America.
Not all sleep aids are made by pharmaceutical companies. You probably heard about
We have a...
Stop and define terms. Who's they?
The central bankers.
Yes.
Right. So we...
Which is Esau Edom. The central bankers are Esau Edom. The Rothschilds, Oppenheimers, Bilderbergs, DuPonts.
We have a democratic republic, or we have a republic and use this democratic process. What happened in 1913 is the bankers took control of monetary policy. What they're trying to do now is take control of fiscal policy. Once they get control of fiscal policy, it's going to be much harder to reverse it.
And once they get control of fiscal policy, they will be implementing the R.F.I.D chip where you won't have no rights. You physically belong to them, and they will be able to control everything and monitor everything that you have and do.
I'm going to ask a series of really dumb questions.
Okay.
I hope you'll indulge me. What's the difference?
Taxation without representation.
But between fiscal and monetary policies.
Okay, monetary policy is I control the process by which currency is issued, including through credit.
Yep.
So
Money
I
printing.
generally govern and control credit issuance.
Yes.
And from that, the currency, the creation and management of the currency. Fiscal policy is when I control the taxes and the borrowing of the U.S. government. Now, because the central bank basically operates the borrowing, it's the borrowing is shared. But this comes down as this is the Boston Tea Party moment. Can they tax without representation? So I'll give you a little story. During the Biden administration, Biden nominated somebody for control of currency who was ultimately not approved. The Republicans in the Senate killed the nomination. Before she was nominated, 3 weeks before, she wrote an article in the Vanderbilt Law Review that said the great thing about central bank digital currency, in other words, an all digital currency system, is you have the perfect tool to deal with inflation. If inflation gets out of hand, you just freeze everybody's bank accounts.
Nice.
Right. So so
And inflation is a creation of monetary. It's the effect of monetary policy. It's like something that somebody did to you.
well, there are two things that cause inflation. So one is monetary policy, managing monetary policy in a way that creates monetary inflation. But you also have, and we're going through it now, what I call deglobalization, where you have real increases in the cost of goods. So my cost of goods are going up, and it's not because they're issuing, too much currency relative to growth. It's because we are reversing globalization. Globalization created a whole lot of lower costs for a variety of reasons.
So if you had severing of supply chains, for example, that would cause inflation because it just costs more to get the materials and the goods.
Right. And it's not just higher prices. It's, some products, a lot of products stop being economic and just go away. So, when you hiccup supply chains, especially if you do it by shock doctrine or shock and awe, which is what we're watching.
And please believe this is all done by design to bring in an R.F.I.D chip. You make a corruptible system, a system that's gonna tarnish, a system that's not gonna work, or will eventually be broken down to bring in your ultimate solution.
Now, it wreaks havoc. So think of it like a flotilla of ships that need to turn. If the aircraft carrier doesn't let everybody know they're turning, then the boats aren't ready to turn, and you have boats smashing into each other.
You sink a lot of ships doing that.
You sink a lot of ships.
So leaving aside whether that was wise or not, that's what we're doing.
Right.
So you get inflation out of that. Of course, you're absolutely right. If oil prices go up, you get inflation.
Right. And that deglobalization started in the financial crisis. So, so it's accelerating now, but it's not that we just started it.
How did it start in 2008?
Yes.
Because why?
Because for several reasons, but one is we were trying to exercise more and more control through the dollar system. And we've always exercised a lot of power and control and extracted a subsidy from the dollar system. But you have more and more people trying to get out of the system. And
which is BRICS, which stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa.
Financial crisis, the Asian crisis in 97 was a real wake up to Asia. You need to create more resiliency. But more and more things happened, and then in 2008 it started to accelerate with the creation of as the BRICS started to organize and work to sort of pull out of the dollar.
So the idea was you've got a world economy based on the dollar. The people who issue and administer the dollar are not running things responsibly. Therefore, we need a separate safe haven.
The people running the dollar system want a unipolar model.
Yeah.
The U.S. wants a unipolar model, and we don't want to be part of a unipolar model because we don't want, if you look at the level of subsidy they're extracting, we don't want that level of subsidy extracted. And if you look at some of the rules and regulations, we don't want to be a part of it.
And like I said, it's all by design. Ultimately, they're all going to bring in that digital system. Okay? And every single person on the face of the planet will be chipped. So like I said, this is just a quick little video that I ran up on. Central Bank's secret plan to control you by 2030. It's already begun, and basically what they're talking about is a RFID chip, a digital system. All right, where all people will be chipped, and this is a warning to you, so-called Black, Spanish, and Americans. All right, that the apostle and elders and great millstone have been warning for over 40 years about this scripture right here. I'm gonna read it again. This is Revelation chapter 13, verse 15. And he had power. Jesus says he said the central bank, the ones that run the central banks. We give you guys information even further. They're Edomites. Okay, Esau, Edom, the top elites, Amalek specifically. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast, that digital system, should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causeth all, both small. This is why they're trying to take away the Constitution. This is why they try to take away all rights. By law, that's how Esau does his iniquity, by his laws. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark, G5480, in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is a number of a man, and his number is 636. So that beast system, which is going to be the digital system, is going to chip every single person on the planet except the elect. Okay, and that's total control. So with that, I'd like to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Chakodash. Double honors to my apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who are the apostles and elders of Rashavala. Peace and salutations to the Bayat Dawadah, the house of David for elect. So till next time, Shalom.